talking. Yes, Patricia, we are really happy to have you, and I don't want to waste further time. You can dive right into it, and thank you for being here so much. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nora and Caitlin, for having me. And welcome to everybody. It's really a pleasure to be back in this group. I mean, I remember when you had the first webinar about the new normal, it was a wonderful exchange. So thank you also to all of you organizers who, set up something like that. It's really important to keep in touch in these very difficult times. And I know some of us, and I guess also some of you, already have some sort of a digital Zoom fatigue. That's why I think it's amazing how many of you showed up. So thank you for that. And I hope we can make a fun exchange today. I keep it quite interactive as well. And so whenever you have a question, feel free to put it in the chat. I'll be happy to talk about the questions at the end of the session. And obviously, you can always also raise your hand, and I hope to accommodate your questions, but maybe not right away. I will try to kind of finish what I'm talking about and then dive into it. Okay, so I want to start by actually sharing my screen. So that you know what we are actually talking about. I hope you will see it. So Caitlin and Nora, you just give me a sign if something is wrong. I think everybody can see it. So what we want to talk about, obviously, is the power of networking, and you already did it. So I want to start with a short poll on Slido. And it's going to be a word cloud. The question is, what do you associate with networking? What word comes to your mind? Just write one word. And we will see, what kind of words actually you have in mind. And the bigger the word, obviously, the more people have chosen that word. And as you can see, it's already coming in. Talking, connection. In the beginning, I saw people. That's now a little bit smaller, but obviously talking is talking with people. Connections, communication, opportunities. I love that. I mean, I see a lot of positive connotated words, which is amazing. I have talked about networking many, many times. And sometimes some people also have a little bit of a negative, connotation. I mean, I do see anxiety there, though. So that shows awkward, not everybody feels super comfortable with the networking. Sometimes also has a little bit of a negative connotation in itself because it feels a bit stressed maybe or a bit forced. So we really also want to dig into that in today's session. But I also see joy. So obviously there are people out there that are really enjoying to network. Small talk, I like that word. That's also something that a lot of people say, I don't like small talk. I want to talk about real things, not just the unimportant things. So we want to dig into that as well. Friends, yeah. So that looks amazing. So the things are coming in. And as you can already see, we have a lot of people in this session. And as you can see, many people associate different things with networking. And that's why we want to talk a little bit about why it is important and how can we do it. So we want to move actually to the next poll. You can stay in the Slido. I just go to the next one. And the question actually will be, do you like networking? And it's basically from 1 to 5. 1 means no, not at all. And 5 means yes, I love it. And this gives me a little bit of an idea of what kind of audience we have in here. Right now, quite balanced, right? And I see we have a few people who are really into networking, and I love that. So I will be curious to hear from you also. Why you love it, right? So especially in the interactions that we will have later in the session. Not that many who say, no, I don't like it at all. A few who are a bit, torn between yes or no, like, yeah, maybe some settings I like it, others I don't like it that much. But I like that in general, your group kind of positively torn towards the idea of networking. That's good. And that's also great because obviously I want to talk to you about how fun it could be and not only why it's important, but also how to enjoy it, you know, because at the end of the day, we're best at things that we really enjoy. So thank you so much for that. And we want to move on. And I want to show you something here. So basically, this is how I would like to start. And you probably think, is she crazy now? Why is she showing us a plant when we talk about networking, right? But basically, a functioning network is almost a little bit like a plant because a functioning network wants to be carefully nurtured because otherwise, you know, it doesn't really live. And this includes offering a benefit to others as well. So networking is not always to just taking, it's really to give and take. And then it has to be in balance. And I want to show you here an African wisdom, which says, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go with others. And this is exactly why networking is something we simply cannot avoid. And sometimes we also have to look at networking in different perspectives, you know. Networking is not always just going to an event digitally or on site and talk with each other. Networking has many, many more aspects to it. And we want to look into that today as well. And now I actually want to do another short poll just to set the record straight. And the next poll actually talks about, have you already nurtured your network this week? Because it's super important to do that. And now it's really just yes or no. And I do see that some of you think or say they have not done that yet. And we want to hear why. But then also those who say yes, want to hear a little bit, how did you do that? So you can put in the chat for those who said yes, maybe just quickly, how did you do it? Was it digitally or were you even at an event? And no, why not? Why didn't you nurture your network this week? Just quickly in the chat, I will have a look at it. And I will take it up. So we see some have done some digital networking over coffee, on Zoom, no time. Yeah, that's about priorities, right? Working on a paper, that I totally resonate. That takes a lot of time. Telephone, WhatsApp is also a great means to network, obviously. It's not just on Zoom or Teams, online, phone. Many say yes. I don't see that many yet. Why not? Well, a grand proposal. Personal meeting. So as you can see, there are many different ideas how to network, and there are also many reasons why not to network. Time always comes up. Someone says not a big network yet, and that's also something we want to talk about. What does it mean to have a network? A network does not mean that you have to have like 500 friends. That's not it. So we want to talk about that as well. Personal challenges, not a big network, few opportunities. Yeah. And maybe how can we create opportunities, right? So thank you so much for all your collaboration here and the co-creation of this session today. Nora, I see someone is in the waiting room. Yeah. So basically what we want to look at now is really first about the why. What are networks? Why do we even talk about it, right? So basically, when we talk about network, we can take it apart, right? We talk about a net and how we work it, basically. But nets actually have a natural and a technical source, because nets are always kind of networks. And it does not matter who or what produced them. If you think about it, spiders, they live in networks. They live in a net and they work the net. Bacteria, I'm sure many of you realize that bacteria actually create and produce somehow nets, and that they kind of work in their neighborhoods is a great net. And when we interact, we actually work the net. So networks are supernatural. To network or to connect is a very, very basic action. It's not something that has to be forced. It's something that is totally natural. And only things that are connected can actually survive. I mean, I'm pretty sure many of you know that. And only things that are connected are actually productive in nature as well as in society. So the goals of networking here really are kind of, the exchange of knowledge. But not only, it's also about mutual help. As I said before, it's about giving and taking. Always keep that in mind. But it's also about how can we foster our relationship? Because usually it has a professional connotation. When we look for a job, or if we want to be promoted, if you want to become visible, but not only, a network is also based on the principle of kind of friends of friends. So each new member brings in his own new contacts. And relationships actually have to be nurtured and cared with different people. It can be done spontaneously or organized, for instance, in such a setup that we have today, or in associations, clubs, service clubs. But it can also happen on the street spontaneously. So it doesn't always have to be about work, but also, as Caitlin said before, it's about having a genuine interest in people. Really be curious about their knowledge, to learn more about those interesting stories and experiences, professional progresses, and what they have done in their lives. But yes, it takes time. Absolutely correct. And as you said before, sometimes we don't have enough time in our lives. But when we know that this is so important, maybe we have to set our priorities straight. And also, networks and networking is based on relevance, right? Reliability and real work. And that's why it's something so natural, but at the same time, we also have to kind of make it a priority. Otherwise, it always falls last on our kind of checking list. And I think we really have to keep that in mind. And having said that, I want to actually open up for the first breakout session, because I want you to also bring in your experience. And I want to put you in breakout sessions to discuss the following two questions. Are we born to be networkers, or can we learn it? And this also goes a little bit with the question, can actually introverts be good networkers? Because what I hear a lot is, I'm not a born networker. I'm not good at it. So can we learn it? And sometimes I also hear, I'm not that extrovert. I mean, I like to be rather, calm, and that's why I'm not a good networker. So please, I'm going to assign you now to breakout sessions, and please just talk about these two questions. Are we born to be networkers? Can we learn it? And what about introverts? Or can only extroverts be good networkers? We're going to do the breakout sessions for about 7 minutes, and then I'll bring you back, and then we will talk about your findings. I will share my mural board, and we'll really put on Post-its so that we can actually co-create, and I will give you input about these questions as well. So I'm going to set up the breakout sessions. And I see they're coming in a lot of interesting questions in the chat. And I also see that some of you raised your hands. So Sarah, you want to go first and share with us your thoughts about the two questions.
Yeah, so we thought networking is definitely something that can be learned. Some people are maybe naturally better at it, but it can be learned. And that introverts can also be good networkers. Again, you can learn it. And another thing we talked about is that the cultural landscape makes a difference. Like some countries, Switzerland, for example, if you're not, for example, if you don't ski, it's sometimes hard to do the chit chat, like the small talk, if you're not, if you don't like to ski or hike. So some cultures are more maybe open to being outgoing, and some countries as a foreigner, it adds more challenge.
Yeah, and I know that you will talk about the cultural aspect in the next session. So that's a great thing. Bring that up again. Probably cannot dig in too deep into that today, but we will definitely talk about how, and then you can link that and apply it in the next session. Thank you so much for sharing. Marie, I see you raised your hand as well.
Yeah, I also definitely agree. It can be learned, and I know that on myself because when I was young, I was actually really struggling to approach people, talk to them, and now I'm quite good at it. And at this moment, I'm at a new place, and it is a bit difficult to approach people because there is no one in the COVID time. So what I put as my goal is to learn how to actually approach people you don't really know through online or something. Different way than if you need something from somebody, it's normally you send an email, but if you don't need anything, you also have to change the skills how to approach them, though you don't really need anything from them.
Mm-hmm. I like that. Sometimes we really think only if we need something and we approach somebody, so to take something, we network. But as I said before, the giving and taking really has to be in balance. So, and we really also have to kind of change the perspective and say networking is really to reach out in general, just because you're interested in the other people, not only because you need something and you want something from them. And sometimes I even go a step further and say, the first step in networking is giving, because sometimes it's also a bit hard, but everybody can actually give something. Everybody has something to offer. And that's also something that everybody can work on individually, or maybe with a friend or in a peer group, to kind of brainstorm a little bit for the next networking session. What can you actually give? What do you want to offer to the person that you talk to? We will see in the second part how to do that. Yeah, so Alicia, you also raised your hand.
Yes, we spoke about that perhaps introverts and extroverts should take different strategies to approach networking. Like when introverts feel good in speaking one-to-one, then perhaps she or he should use it, because it's also nice ability, which it's not always case for extroverts. So perhaps deeper nourishing some connections is better strategy for introverts. Because nice to
Absolutely.
use our strength and not trying to be someone else. Yeah,
absolutely. And then maybe Ria, you also raised your hand. Maybe we take you, and then I'm going to summarize here a little bit.
Sure. So we also found that there's aspects that can certainly be learned, and we realized in our discussion that for us, kind of commonly this first approach, the first question or the first hello is the part that really people struggle with often, thinking that it needs to be a really good question or to have a very important entrance there, and that this is a part to be learned, but then also to be kind of unlearned, because related to the point that is already on there, that we are born kind of social beings and related or needing community, that we need to unlearn all of these inhibitors to approach people actually.
Yeah, I like that. And I'm sure you will learn more in the next session about the culture aspect, but the unlearning is very important because it also has to do with our stereotypes and biases, right? So sometimes you really kind of have to unwind everything in order to start new. Thanks for that. And yeah, so Elizabeth, maybe just one last word.
Yes. We were also discussing that we can learn this also from my experience. The thing actually is more not a comment, but more as a question, combined, how the marital status also affect the networking, because it's not the same making the networking as a single married person or divorced single mother person, and so on and so on. So this also can affect the networking.
Yeah, thank you so much for bringing that up. Absolutely. I mean, your personal situation definitely has a huge effect on the whole area of networking, what kind of people you're networking with, how often you can actually do it, in which setting you are doing it. Usually early, like very young couples, kind of, they're sometimes always together, maybe they network together, which is also a part of networking. Networking not only exists in a one-on-one session or just me as an alone person, I can also network together with a group. Thank you so much for bringing that up. I just want to close this part of the session before we do a short break and then go into the second part. So the fact is that each of us actually has a family, we have friends, we have co-workers, and we have people that we know. So at the end of the day, everybody in his own way knows how to build relationships, but an effective networker, that is not born. Effective networkers, that's something that we have to learn. It's hard work. It really kind of, to become an effective master networker, you need to work hard and develop certain necessary skills. So for the majority of the world, I would say networking is an acquired skill. I mean, building relationships, that's natural. But really building effective networkers, that's something that grows. So most people are not born networkers. They're born relationship and builders, but network is something else. And we will see later what that is. They develop those people that develop networking skills, I mean, as you said, through education, training, also the right attitude, and always practicing. And that also goes hand in hand with the question of the introverts, because at the end of the day, I had a question in the chat, do they actually exist, introverts and extroverts? And obviously there's always a gray area, but the main difference between introverts and extroverts is not necessarily how open they are to other people, but it's more about, their reaction and engagement with other people with regards to where do they get their energy from. Like being around people energizes extroverts, while introverts need more limited contact supported by alone time and to re-energize. So that means if you're an introvert, you can actually be a fantastic networker, but you need maybe a little bit more time to then also re-energize and calm down and reflect. So introverts are actually sometimes even the better networkers because they're super selective whom they talk to. They consider what comes out of their mouth. They're not just talking. They get very straight to the point, and they really follow up with intent. So for me, sometimes introverts are even the better networkers because they do it quite consciously. So having said that, I just wanted to open the stage about why we talk about networks and give you some, food for thought. We're going to break now for 3 minutes until 10:35. And then we come back, so you can have a bio break, get another coffee or water, whatever. And then we really want to talk about how do we do it, I want to really show you 3 areas how we network and what you can practice. Okay, see you in 3 minutes. I think we can restart. So as you can see, and I see in the poll as well, you network a lot also with your former classmates and university contacts, obviously the family or extended family, friends, also previous work colleagues, obviously. And you also mentioned social media contacts. And that's what we want to a little bit focus on digital networks, because obviously in today's world, as we can see today, we really are a lot on digital networks. And there, one thing is very important is to start with a kind of a goal in mind, you know. This approach to networking, especially digitally, has to be done with a mindset of mutual benefit. As I already said before, ask yourself, how can we help each other? And what value can I bring to this relationship? Strong relationships are always a two-way street. So always ask yourself that before you kind of reach out and connect with somebody. So for instance, on LinkedIn, you know, when you connect with somebody, also write a small text so that person knows why you want to connect. So build your network with others kind of before you expect anything in return. I think that's very important to kind of have this mindset shift. So use digital networks in a very goal-oriented way. Kind of even lay out a strategy if you want. So, you know, I mean, doesn't have to be huge, but just to have in mind, like, which groups do I want to follow? Why do I do that? Really ask yourself what you are doing. Be conscious about your network, about your next steps, and then maintain the connections. It's super easy digitally, but definitely it does not replace the face-to-face relationships. Try to actually interact them. So for instance, if you attend a conference, I hope soon we will be able to attend conferences on site again, reach out beforehand to some of the participants that you know that they will be there, so that you already created the connections, you know. So when you arrive there, you can already look out and say, hey, we already connected on LinkedIn, so good to see you in person. So I think that is a very important step to do. And I want to talk about three main areas how to actually use the digital networks. Like, what is digital networking really? So the digital networking process, it's about, I would say, almost a never-ending opportunity. So to get a better understanding of the key steps or actions involved in effective digital networking, I've broken down the process kind of in three areas. The first one is really to discover, identifying new potential contacts that add value to your network, and again, the two-way interaction. Then it's about building, developing interactions with newer members of your network to better understand their personality and backgrounds, to really be curious about their interests and build that relationship. And then the third one is really to support and manage, maintaining a positive relationship through continued and regular interactions, you know, develop and organize kind of an effective communication rhythm, just so that it's not too much, but also not that they kind of forget you. And what you have to do in order to do that is you really have to kind of master a proactive outreach. You have to attract contacts to you, and you have to complement your already existing personal contacts somehow with a strategy. How can you complement those contacts with new contacts, new networks? And I want to dig into those three a little bit deeper. So the proactive outreach, what do I mean with that? Well, a proactive outreach does really mean that you do not just, for instance, post aimlessly on LinkedIn. Really try to think about what message you want to bring across. What do I stand for? It almost goes a little bit into the branding, which you will hear more about in the second session. Choose about 5 to 10 people who are reachable contacts, you know, follow them on social media because they're interesting for you, but maybe because you're also interesting for them. Engage with those persons, kind of, reshare their content, comment on the content, start to interact. I've done that with a professor at Harvard. I've not known her, but I really like what she does. And I started to have this interaction with her now. I mean, we have never met, but for some reason, I feel she's in my network and we kind of share great content. And every few weeks, just try to really go out there and make your name known to them. As a next step, it's really about attracting contacts also to you. And how exactly should this be done, right? So try to maybe also ask other people to be introduced. Maybe somebody that knows another one that you want to get to know. So ask to be introduced. I always say I'm happy to make an introduction. I just write an email and say, hey, I connect here two wonderful people, happy networking, and feel free to take it from there. And I know a lot of people do that. Position yourself also as a peer, so that they know why it's interesting to interact with you. Maybe write a thoughtful article or reference on LinkedIn. Also, maybe mention your article maybe in one of the comments that you do to interact with people. And also, I think it's important to then also not only do it in a broader way on LinkedIn, but then also make contact in person, as you said before, on WhatsApp, or once we can move around a little bit more easily, maybe also schedule a coffee in somewhere at the university, or have lunch with someone. And you will see a lot of people are actually super open about that. And the third one is really to complement personal contacts. So what do I mean with this? It's really to kind of question yourself, which message do I want to bring across at a conference, on social media, maybe use Google alerts as well, really, maybe you are in a topic that is super interesting to you, privately or professionally, and then just install the Google alerts. And then all of a sudden, some contacts will come up, or some people will come up that you can then again reach out to on social media and connect. And that's how you build basically your network. This strategy allows you to build and maintain really relationships with key contacts, because at the end of the day, as we said, time is limited, and we really have to be very conscious, with whom we want to connect. Sometimes it's also because it's for a great cause, not only because you get something out of it, but maybe because you say, hey, I do this because I believe in this cause. I want to contribute to that, and that will also be some sort of positioning yourself in an area. Okay, so now I want to give you another 5 minutes to talk about the following two questions. What types of networkers are there? Like, now we heard how we can network, but maybe you already saw some different people, how they network. So maybe you can talk about what types of networkers are there. They can not only be positive ones, you can totally talk about different ones. And then with that also goes the questions, what role does trust play in networking? And you know what, in order to save time, because I see that we are kind of running late a little bit, maybe we do this exercise not in a breakout session, but I give you like 1 or 2 minutes to really think about it. You can already put something in the chat, and I will share again my mural. And then whenever you're ready, you can raise your hand and we can put it on mural again. So really the questions are, what types of networkers are there? And what role does trust play in networking? Trust is everything in a relationship. Absolutely. The profiler, I like that. And somebody who's very enthusiastic, right? The givers and the takers, yeah. Without trust, there is no personal relationship. Pushy people, I like that as well. I want to hear about that. And others who just listen, that's also something, the listeners, right? And then the first impression, that is very important. And that has to do with trust. When we trust, we feel safe and we start to share experience. Absolutely. So it creates some sort a safe environment. What else have you written? Those who only reach out for obtaining something, very much power-oriented. Yeah, absolutely. You need to trust people. And yeah, we feel more comfortable, that's true. But how do we build that trust, right? I don't see a lot of obvious networking in academia, but it seems like there are two main types, those in it for themselves and those in it for the project, other people. Yeah, that's then if we have those two types, we have to combine the two types, because that's when the real networking kicks in. And it's then the balanced way of building relationships and really maintaining that network. Some people are collectors. Yeah, I like that, because, you know, you probably all were at conferences where there are people out there that just kind of collect business cards after business cards. And you really think, what's the point? The kind of the goal-oriented networker, the energetic and passionate networker. Yeah, absolutely. I think passion is very important. Very, very important. Communication is super important. Yeah, and then there are networkers who only network to hold their status. It is again about kind of power, you know, they only do that because they want to position themselves as powerful. And the negative image when it comes across as if certain people only want to connect with the most important person in the room. Oh yes, I think that's also something that we have seen. It's kind of again with the profiler, and they go around and they kind of, you know, their antenna, but it's all about themselves. It's not about the relationship. And I'm telling you, at the end of the day, that's coming back to you. It's not working out in the long term. There's some aggressive, more egocentric networkers and more the shy, altruistic ones. Absolutely. Different level of depth in the relationship. Of course, if you go to a conference and you meet somebody for the first time, that is very hard to kind of share some experiences, because how do you know that you can kind of trust that person, right? The connectors, the trust is built over time. I like that, because that also, again, has to do with the two-way street, because you cannot expect to just show up and that person in front of you is sharing the whole life with you. So you have to be careful there. But it helps if you first open up, and if both of you are in this mindset of, yeah, we are offering something to you. I was at one networking event where the initial question was, and it was really framed by the moderator, was, how can I help you? We haven't known each other, but the question was, when we went into networking, how can I help you? What can I do for you? And that creates a total new networking atmosphere. Instead of first telling how great I am, who I am, what I have done, what I have accomplished, but really turn it around and say, hey, what can I do for you? And you will be astounded what kind of answers you will hear, because nobody expects it. But it's great. It starts a great trusted ground. And then you will soon hear how the person reacts. And it gives you also a good picture of, do you really want to engage with that person more, or is it maybe not the same level? Networking also only is in a way beneficial if it's on the same eye level. It doesn't work if somebody thinks he or she is better than the other one, or higher in the hierarchy, or more powerful, or so on. And also if somebody thinks, oh, I'm only an assistant, I'm, you know, how can I talk to the professor? But also there we have to create a certain trust and go on eye level, otherwise the networking is super hard. So thank you so much for all your great comment here. I will then take everything. So Caitlin, maybe you can share the chat afterwards with me. Then I can put it in the handout. I will make a nice whiteboard, put everything in, and I will send out the handout, and then you will have all the great tips, and I will cluster them a little bit. But I want to just shortly end my session with a few real key takeaways. First of all, regarding the networkers, for me, they are power networkers. They're all a little bit players, you know, like very savvy networkers. They kind of go out and they feel very comfortable, but be aware, you never know how it looks inside of them, you know. Sometimes they also wear a mask. And then you have a little bit the more passive networker, and they moderate, you know, they look out and they kind of do it in a very conscious way. And it's more about kind of, you know, first screening the scene and then coming up with an idea and with a plan. Very strategic. And obviously you also have the shy networker. Those don't really feel comfortable, and sometimes it's maybe also our task to kind of help them, to kind of, hey, hi, you want to share our conversation? Hey, who are you? What can we do for you? That really helps, and it gives you a great feeling, you know, if you do that, because you actually were able to bring somebody in. And that brings me actually to really the golden goal of networking, and you probably already know it. All things being equal, people will do business or refer business or kind of give you assignments, promotions, jobs, only to those people they know, they like, and they trust. So this is very important. The knowing is first. So put yourself out there, otherwise they don't know you. The like, there has to be some sort of eye level in terms of, you know, we cannot like everybody, and that's fine. You know, we don't have to network with everybody. And the third is trust. You know, we can know somebody, but the trust is really much deeper, and you have to work on that. So with regard to the interpersonal trust building, it is a slow process, and there are some roadblocks sometimes, but it requires that the parties have knowledge about one each other, and really do that in a constant rhythm. So the key takeaways of today, I'm sorry. Well, there we go. It's really, I want to give you this, just 3 things, and I will put that in the handout as well. Diversify your digital connections. When building your network, don't just add anyone. Be reflective, you know, thorough, thoughtful. I mean, look for elements of each event and that really appeal to you, and then engage with those people. And sometimes I know, because I'm that way, if you think everything is interesting and everyone is super appealing and you think you have to engage with everyone, maybe just write down some of your main areas that you're in right now. You could even do a 2x2 matrix with urgency and importance. What is right now important in your life and what is urgent in your life? And then you approach those people first. The second point is develop your personal digital brand. And that's something you will hear next session more about. But when people search for you, your online profiles are often the first thing they come across. So establish yourself and be sure to update your information regularly. Maybe do a web search about yourself and see what shows up. That's amazing. And then you can actually take it from there. You can really attract others and build your online influence by, posting things and really interacting with people. And the third point is really the network insights. At its core, digital networking is driven by data. So by creating and connecting large subsets of information from our networks and kind of aggregating them online in a digitally savvy way, networkers can really leverage online tools from social media and other channels. And I really highly recommend to do that in a strategic way. Implement the Google alerts, go through your contacts, go through your groups on LinkedIn, analyze and profile your networks, We can build a picture of where they work, what they do, and that gives us an idea. How do you want to be perceived, right? We can identify the types of people we tend to interact with, and perhaps more importantly, those we don't. Maybe there's a huge gap which you want to fill. So use those tools wisely. There are tons of, modules on YouTube and LinkedIn how to do that. I mean, there are tutorials out there. You can watch them on the sofa instead of maybe watching a Netflix episode next time. You watch a tutorial about how to analyze your digital contacts. It's super fun, and then interact with them. So this brings me to the end of my session. Obviously, if you have any questions or comments, please let me know. You can always reach out to me. As I said, I will, here are my contacts. I will share that with Caitlin and Nora and the rest of the organizers, and they will be happy to share that with you. So thank you so much for your attention, and I'm happy to connect with you on LinkedIn, and feel free to reach out to me. Thank you.